Hi and welcome. I'm Fabian, a former strategy consultant turned digital product manager, and today in the second video of our series focused on digital product management, we will be delving into key concepts and frameworks that are really fundamental to guiding product development and decision making in terms of providing clarity to our teams and then also to some of our external stakeholders. Some of the areas I will be delving into are, first of all, Agile Methodology, second, the Scrum Framework, thirdly, Lean Startup Principles, and finally, before we conclude, Design Thinking. Starting with the first one, Agile Methodology can be defined as a set of principles and practices for iterative and incremental product development. What does it actually mean? It's actually about a set of shared values in terms of individuals and interactions, focused on working software, focused on collaborating with customers and responding to change and its benefits in digital product development. And it sounds really abstract because in some respects it is. So we've got fairly standardized agile ceremonies, but underpinning this is a fundamental shift. And the more you work within a common organization, the more you realize how different it is, that there is this new way of doing things referred to as principles here. Agile practices include, I've briefly alluded to them, sprints, backlog grooming, daily stand-ups, sprint planning, sprint reviews, and retrospective meetings, all of which have a very distinct purpose, but at the core, build on these principles and operationalize them and help us as digital product teams to make sure that what we do is aligned, is focused on the most relevant problems, is adding value to the business, is technically feasible, and so much more. In a real-world context, this could mean that we run, for example, bi-weekly sprint cycles. So we would have a planning session at the beginning of a sprint, then would have daily stand-ups, and at the end of the sprint, we would have a review where we look into what we've done, we demo stuff, and would have a retrospective that looks into how well did we work as a team, what can be improved, and there are all sorts of different ways to do that. What I personally like to do in addition to that is have a stakeholder alignment session before our sprint planning. So we have a high-level think about what we believe we want to do during a, for example, 2-week sprint, and then align the objectives and high-level items with our stakeholders, because especially when we develop business internal digital products, our customers are our business stakeholders. So making sure that we are continuously aligned is crucially important, not just to make sure that what we develop is meaningful, but also to have an ongoing conversation about any changes across the business and increase acceptance, because there's nothing worse than leading a team and getting feedback from your stakeholders that what you're doing is just some isolated work detached from some of their real-world problems. So therefore, ongoing alignment is crucially important. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the Scrum Framework. So the Scrum Framework is a popular agile framework for managing product development, covers a couple of specific roles, namely, or most often, product owners, Scrum Masters, and development teams. Product owners are really responsible for making sure that we gather the right requirements. They're the key stakeholder when it comes to making or informing prioritization decisions, and they're kind of the point of contact related to any sort of business-related questions, also in terms of operationalizing products, integrating them, releases. This is the person we would work most closely with when it comes to kind of roadmap alignment, etc. So our representative from a business is the product owner. Secondly, a Scrum Master helps us to if we have a dedicated Scrum Master, it can always be a person from our team to run our ceremonies. So the daily stand-ups where we might use tools like Jira to go through our tickets and really help us give meaningful updates. Also similarly in terms of sprint plannings, in terms of sprint reviews and retros, where a really good Scrum Master can make or break efficient and effective agile delivery. And then finally, and potentially most importantly, the development team that, depending on your type of product, might comprise various capabilities, but it's crucially important that you find a good balance between giving autonomy and trusting your teams, and then making sure that there isn't any isolated work, that everyone gets the help they need. And of course, we want to avoid any micromanagement, but it's always about finding this balance and really developing a in-depth and really trusted relationship with your team to understand what type of support they need, what personality types are present in your team, how they communicate and need to communicate. And all of these different facets are, at its core, very individualized. But yeah, the development team is really a crucial role in the Scrum framework. I've been briefly through the sprint ceremonies. Just to recap, they're the sprint planning, stand-up, review, and retrospective. And core to Scrum as a framework or methodology is really the focus on delivering increments of working software at the end of each sprint. So complete opposite to a waterfall type of approach where we have a massive requirements document, do 6 months of development work, and then a big bang deployment. In the Scrum context, we would release some form of product every sprint, whether this is some form of very technical development. It can be data engineering work or data science product or data analytics product. But after every sprint, we want to release some form of delivery work. There are, of course, benefits and challenges associated with that, especially when it comes to kind of big system implementation changes that are super complex. We can't necessarily just develop them using Agile methodology, but equally, we don't want to, for an analytics type product, for example, that is inherently there to serve a given user group with or by answering analytics type questions, that we want to gain feedback fast and iterate and make sure that what we do is most relevant and solving the most pressing problem where arguably some form of agile methodology is best suited. Thirdly, lean startup principles. So lean startup principles can be defined as a methodology for developing businesses and products through rapid experimentation and validated learning. So what does it actually mean? So some of the core concepts of lean startup include build, measure, learn feedback loops, minimum viable products, and pivot or persevere decision making. So I'm not delving too much into the nuanced ones, but minimum viable product, fairly self-explanatory, a product that can be released that is adding value to a user group. And pivot or persevere is a really interesting concept. It's actually more of a challenge forum where we as product managers would pitch our product to a group of peers or knowledgeable other types of stakeholders that can then really challenge us and ask critical questions around why we took certain product decisions in a constructive yet critical way, and then potentially pivot or at least nudge our product somewhat in a different directions. In terms of operationalizing lean startup principles in a digital product management context, it's really important to validate assumptions we might have. First of all, surfacing any assumptions that we might or might not be aware of. Iterate quickly and minimize waste, so bearing these principles in mind. And I mean, lean startup principles they can be somewhat abstract, but especially this kind of pivot or persevere challenge form is something I have done quite a lot recently and can just highly recommend. So maybe you can take these different elements in terms of assumption validation, iteration, waste minimization, and really challenge what this could mean in your specific context of digital product development. And finally, design thinking. So design thinking, after all, is really a human-centric approach to innovation and problem solving. There are different stages to design thinking, or the design thinking process, that include empathy, definition, ideation, prototyping, and testing. And all of them are crucially important. But how can design thinking help digital product managers? So it can help us understand user needs better. It can help us generate creative solutions and iterate through rapid prototyping and testing. But overall, really this core idea of empathy and collaboration at the core of design thinking is something that loads of us as digital product managers should do and incorporate more. And I can just highly recommend applying some of these fundamental principles to our products to create something that is more user-centric and thereby also more value-generating after all. So just to conclude quickly before the other lights might turn off as well, is we've been through some of the key concepts and frameworks. We have emphasized the importance of applying Agile, Scrum, Lean, and design thinking principles in a digital product management context. And I would highly encourage you to rethink some of the fundamentals of how you do things, especially if you're in this habit of just kind of doing your ceremonies every week. Rethink with your team some of the learnings I've shared today, and I would be really curious to hear what you took away from this, if you've got any additional feedback or thoughts, and then if not, I hope you have a wonderful day, and see you hopefully again in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.